Hello there. Today we're talking about headline markings and marks on the headline. Now, normally there are some kind of marks on the headline. It's unusual to have a perfectly formed line. If it is perfectly clean, that shows that a person is quite strong mentally and not many things affect them. So most markings on a line are not really a welcome sign, except for rising lines, triangles and squares. So most of the time the marks serve more like a warning or current situation. So we will start with the chained line, as here we have on the list. So if the whole of the headline is chained looking, so it's got like literally like linked, lots of linked little islands linked together. So that shows someone who is sensitive in their mind. They have a sensitive mentality. So they might be undergoing some sort of issues, either personal, some intellectual, or some mental issues like struggling to focus. It shows somebody a little bit unstable, or they have a poor memory. They might be feeling unmotivated in career goals and things like that. Basically, it shows the way we think. So if it's chained, it could suggest difficulty learning. It might also suggest unable to think clearly, or even someone who's a lazy thinker. Some cases, depending on other factors, it can suggest somebody who's suffering from depression as well. And these chain lines can change over time. They don't always have to stay that way. Okay, the next is the island. Islands are sometimes difficult to pick out because they're not perfectly formed. But an island can be just a very fine line underneath the main part of the line that forms like a doubled up section. So it splits into two and then rejoins. That shows a weakening of the line. So in that particular period, say in this instance, we'd be looking at the island starts about here. That would be probably around age 18. And if it goes all the way, if it's a big long island, that would be 18 to 40. So that's a very long period of a stressful period is what that would be indicating if the island is that big. They're rarely that big though on the headline. So like I said, it shows a weakening of the line. So the mental powers are affected. It can be a sign that during that period there was worry, some uncertainty, could be illness, could also show depression, anxiety disorders. It could be struggling with memory or just being tired. There's many reasons for having an island on the headline. But again, these marks can go away after a while. Next we have the square, which is the best kind of a mark to have, really, because it's a protective mark. The squares normally sort of look like this, where they overlap each other, and often that forms when there is a weak part of the line. So say if, for instance, the headline has a break in it and then continues, and the square's in the middle, that shows protection. So it's an encouraging mark because it covers the weak area of the line. So it represents overcoming mental stress or a protection of actual injury to the head as well. So if you're going to have any mark, it's good to have the square. Now, next, the triangle. The triangle attached to the actual line would look something like this. Now, don't forget, it's not going to be made up by other lines. It's not going to be a line that runs up here and then a line that runs across there and then coincidentally forms a triangle in the middle. That's not what I'm talking about. So we'll get rid of those. So the triangle would stand on its own, and that strengthens the part of the line wherever it appears. So it gives a boost for that current period, maybe an achievement of a goal or a problem resolved, or even a windfall, as in money. So again, depending on which part of the headline it sits. With the timing, usually around about the middle of the line is age of 40. It's a bit difficult to time because many people have short headlines. Some people have a long headline, so approximately middle is 40. All right, next, bar lines. Bar lines are just little slashes that might just pop up here and there. So they represent a temporary obstacle, such as financial difficulty. And a cross, so if it has an actual cross on it, either that way or across this way. So that's a little bit more unfavorable, denotes setback, mental blocks, and it's an obstacle too, but a little bit longer duration. If it's an actual star, so there seems to be several lines, that can be a warning that indicates a mental shock. It can even suggest a head injury. So, but you do have to look for markings on the main lines to corroborate any sort of events like that. But stars on the lines generally, especially on the headline, are not very favorable. Next we have the dot. Now, a black or grey dot. Black dots can show a sudden shock. That's not a dot. I can't draw. Anyway, black dot can show a sudden dot shock to the system. Or grey, sudden mental shock. If it's red, or like a short red line, it may indicate the same thing but with less intensity. So the darker the dot, the more intensities. So it might seem unusual to ever see a black dot, but I'll tell you what it looks like. Like, say if you poked yourself with a pencil, a lead pencil for instance, and it leaves just a dot like a dint. That's what these dots look like. Like a little black dent, whatever way you say it. Okay, yeah, my camera's not working today, if you're wondering. It's a good thing because I look terrible. I haven't brushed my hair. Okay, so what are we up to? We're nearly done. Oh, branch. Branches, rising branches are a good sign. So they're just like little lines that rise, either at the end or in the middle or anywhere. So that reveals like successful periods, and if you've had an extended period of worry or something like that, and then you have this rising line, so that shows the end of that period, and it shows a much happier period, some kind of a successful endeavor. So if the branches are drooping, the downward branches, they show some mental struggles. They can show unhappy periods or disappointments. But most of the time, they might actually be like influence lines. They can be the fate line, part of a fate line. So they're very difficult to analyze. You need a careful eye to know if it's a drooping line or if it is an actual rising line from somewhere, or if it's a fate line. So they're a little bit more difficult to judge those branches. So a fuzzy line is very similar to the chained line or an island even. Sometimes just a section of the line becomes like it's faded, like it's smudged. I can't draw it, but I'll try and explain it. So if the area seems just blurred, and it's not a fine line, it's a blurry area or a smudged area or a really just fuzzy, that's the only way I can really explain it, a fuzzy part of the line. So that's showing that a period is during that period there's some stress, there's a lot of worry, a lot of uncertainty. It's a similar meaning to the island. So that is possible for someone who has had some kind of a long-term illness, or someone who suffers migraines a lot. That can also happen. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that quick lesson on marks on the headline, and I look forward to doing another example palm reading video next. I've got some photos of a person's hand, and I'm just going to do a quick reading about his hand, and just to help educate some more. I look forward to doing my next one soon. Catch you later. Bye.